when it comes to the East African community. But now we want to move a bit away from the discussion we had in the morning, where we were talking about the transboundary opportunities, but now we want to move to talking about the policies and the regulatory frameworks which could unlock these opportunities for women, for youth, for men, and for everyone. So, why are we talking about these topics at regional level? That, I think I will use it as an opportunity to talk about the East African Center of Excellence for Renewable Energy and Efficiency, which is the one convening this session under the Renewable Energy Conference and Expo, which is organized by the National Renewable Energy Platform and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. So the center, the full name is normal mouthful. I also don't mentioning it. So we call it IACRI. So IACRI is a body which was created by the East African community and given the mandate to promote renewable energy and energy efficiency in the East African community, which is a region comprised of 8 partner states. The first one is the Republic of Burundi. Anyone here from the Republic of Burundi? Good. Let's give him a round of applause. The second one is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Anybody from the Democratic Republic of Congo? Anyone very close to the border of Democratic Republic of Congo? Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I come from some small village at the corner of South Sudan, DRC, and Uganda. We call that place Salia Musala. These three cooking stones. Salia Musala in the local language there means the 3 stones for cooking, which refers to the countries. Yeah. And the third country is the Republic of Kenya. Anyone from Kenya? The fourth country, the fourth partner state is the Republic of Rwanda. Anyone from Rwanda? Let me tell you something about Uganda. There are many Rwandans who are Ugandans, and there are many Ugandans who are Rwandans. Most times, they don't raise up their hand, but we know they are there. Yeah. The fifth partner state of the East African community is the Republic of South Sudan. Anyone from South Sudan? Good. Good. Number 6, we have the Federal Republic of Somalia. Anyone from Somalia? Good. Number 7, we have the United Republic of Tanzania. Anybody from Tanzania? Good. In the morning, we had the panelist from Tanzania. She gave us a very good oversight of what opportunities exist there in Tanzania when it comes to renewable energy and energy efficiency in the East African community. The last, but not least, the Republic of Uganda. Anyone from Uganda? Oh, good. So these are the 8 partner states, and that's how far the mandate of IACRI extends as far as promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency is concerned. And there are many ways of promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency, and IACRI has been focusing on 5 thematic areas, and policy development and harmonization at regional level is one of those 5 areas. It's good that we're going to have this conversation, but the other areas include investment promotion, and we have done quite some work in that space. I'm happy that one of our partners is here, where we are doing that investment promotion with to put up a 20 megawatt solar power plant solar power plant in Chenjojo. The second, the third area besides the policy development and investment promotion is awareness creation and knowledge management. We have also done quite some work in those areas. The fifth area is technical capacity building, and the last area is research, innovation, and development. I invite you to this conversation where we're going to look at policy and the policy at regional level. We have assembled a very dynamic group of discussants who are going to articulate these issues. And now let me take this honor to invite our very first panelist, that is Mr. Elsam Turiahabwe, who is a senior energy officer at the East African Community Secretariat, which is based in Arusha, Tanzania. Let's put our hands together for him. So welcome. The second panelist I would like to introduce is Mr. Thomas Opande, who is the lead of Africa Energy Initiative at the Worldwide Fund for Nature, which we commonly know as WWF. Thomas, you're most welcome. To mix this panel up a bit, let me also take the honor to invite Dr. Miriam Nakamia, who is a lecturer at the Makerere University Business School. Doctor, you're most welcome. Then the fourth panelist is Mr. Leonidas Hatimana, who is team leader forestry at the Food and Agriculture Organization, which we commonly know as FAO or FAO. You're most welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much, our panelists, for making time to join us to have this discussion about the role of policy and regulatory framework harmonization in accelerating access or the ambitions for energy transition in the East African community, which is a very interesting theme, and we're going to have a discussion around that. So let me start with Mr. Elsam Turiahabwe, who is the senior energy officer at the EAC Secretariat. I'm sure many young people don't know much about EAC. That is I think you will prove later that it could be a very honest opinion. And EAC is a very popular trend already, but when it comes to the young people, there are some gaps there. So I would like, first of all, Elsam to start with talking about the organs of the EAC and some of the major policy and strategic documents that outline the position of the EAC when it comes to renewable energy and energy efficiency. Elsam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yunus, moderator of this afternoon. Elsam Turiahabwe Mpaka from East African Community Secretariat, Arusha. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
East African community is composed of 8 partner states. Eunice made a roll call of the 8. I don't need to repeat. East African community has got a secretariat in Arusha. It has also got a legislative assembly, East African Legislative Assembly, which is called YALA. East African community has got a court, ECJ, East African Court of Justice, and a number of institutions. Actually, here in Uganda, there are KASOA, there is Inter-University Council, Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization, and then the BEBE, which is growing to become one, IACRI, East African Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. East African community, you remember there was East African community that collapsed in 1977, but it was revived later under a cooperation, and eventually in 1999 they signed the East African Community Treaty that established the present EAC that has grown to 8 countries. Cut the long story short, I think I should go straight to the policies and strategies that we have at EAC. At EAC, we have a regional strategy on scaling up access to modern energy services. It is a bit of an old document, but it is again a living document. It is 2005. It was made in line with the SDGs. It is due for review, but it has 4 targets that are still standing. 1, to provide 50% of the population using a clean energy to clean energy. You can see that target is still a living target because more or less, sometimes sometimes we move at a speed that is lower than the population growth, where we end up being in the same place, not changing much. Then target number 2 is to provide access and reliable electricity to urban and peri-urban. At the moment, I don't know the percentage of access of connectivity in Kampala, but there is a time when it was 60% in Kampala, not even metropolitan Kampala. When you add metropolitan Kampala, you find that a number of households don't have electricity, and this was one of the targets of the regional strategy. Then 3rd, provide modern energy services to hospitals, schools, and clinics. I'm sure even up to now some of the schools have no access to modern energy services. And lastly, to provide mechanical power for productive use. So that is one of the documents that we have been using, which requires review to pay attention also to the new upcoming technologies like e-mobility, hydrogen, and then review these targets, considering that even EAC has expanded. A second document we have is EAC Energy Security Policy Framework. We developed this one around 2016, 2017. It was adopted by Council here in Kampala actually in 2018. So this one also has both targets, but it was majorly looking at energy security, mainly biomass, oil and gas, and electricity. Then number 3, we have a regional power system master plan. In the morning, I think it was the right Honorable Prime Minister who referred to Chikagati Murongo hydropower station. That those renewable energy hydropower stations will develop basing on the regional power system master plan. So far we have completed that Chikagati Murongo, Muzumo hydropower. We have others in the pipeline, Songezi, Ruzizi 3 or 4. And then lastly but not least, we have the climate change policy and plan in place. This one also we have been directed to review it. You know, climate change is very, very, very related to energy, because the emissions come from energy, but again, the solution also lies with the mitigation by increasing the contribution of renewable energy in the energy mix and reducing the consumption on oil and gas. All these documents are anchored in the 6th ESC development strategy, which is also developed based on the ESC treaty. In the pipeline, in collaboration with IAPRI, UNISAND team, and partner states, we are developing the energy efficiency policy, which was validated some few months ago, but one of the partner states presented that they still need some more consultations on it. That is the good part of the integration. Our decision making is by consensus. All the parties have to agree. When one does not agree, we give it time. Then we are also looking at renewable energy policy, also working with IAPRI and the partner states. Those are still in the pipeline. Maybe moderator, those are the documents that we have, but maybe in order not to come back on the floor, I can point out that the challenges in harmonizing policies is that one, countries are at different levels. You find one country has got a policy, another one doesn't have. Others have got separate policies, others have got one policy. So that becomes a challenge. 2, inadequate financing. You are all aware that to do something, you need resources, both capital and human. And for human resources, we could be having the human resources in the region, but so far we don't have very many people that are employed in the sector. Even I don't know whether there is anybody here from the ministry here. Even at the ministries, whether here, whether Nairobi, whether Kigali, the number of people employed under these ministries are not very many. So you find sometimes we don't have capacity. And I would suggest that maybe a solution, pooling resources, working jointly, and maybe both private and government to strengthen IACRI. IACRI is a baby. ED talked about how it started. In a way, that is more or less like my baby. I started it. But it needs to be strengthened in order to help the region to go into the transition. But the transition, if I may say, you see, to transit, you must have reached. Because for our case, we haven't reached. I don't know, we are transiting from where to where. That's why, for our case, we believe in the energy integration, where we utilize all the available resources, but taking care of the environment, and then we transit. Otherwise, in the region, we live in an energy poverty region. Sometimes if you are outside of the region, you feel shy to talk about your installed capacity, to talk about your per capita consumption. I don't know, these days, you know, it is easy. You can even check the installed capacity of Norway and versus the population, the per capita, and you check your Uganda, you will just laugh it off yourself. So, Eunice, for now I can stop there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Elsam, for that good oversight of what policy documents or strategic documents exist at the EAC level, where you mentioned 4 key documents which cover issues of access, security, power systems, and also climate change, as well as some of the works which are in the pipeline, like the energy efficiency policy, renewable energy policy, and the challenges when it comes to harmonizing these policies at the same time. Before I get you off the hook, you know, policies and policy options like standards go hand in hand. You had mentioned about the renewable energy policy and the energy efficiency policy. Is there anything in relation to standards when you're talking about minimum energy performance standards, which is going on at the EAC level?
Thank you. At the EAC, we have a department in charge of standards, and it has a sectoral committee that handles standards. But at the same time, as I said earlier, I think there are two members of staff handling standards. And you are aware that almost everything, every item needs standards. For example, nails, you have standards for 1 inch, 2 inch, something like that. All these food items and so forth. So, to some extent, that committee has worked with energy and the IACRI developed some MAPs, minimum energy standards, minimum energy performance standards. So if one wants to develop standards, there is the mechanism for developing and harmonizing standards is available. I didn't have much time to let you know how we operate. We work closely with the partner states, like under the energy matters or energy sector. We have 3 working groups. one on power, one on oil and gas, one on energy, renewable energy and energy efficiency. And those working groups form the Energy Committee. The Energy Committee reports the permanent secretary is responsible for energy, and then the permanent secretaries report to the Sectoral Council on Energy, whose members are ministers responsible for energy. And then if the issue has got a policy or financial implication, it is taken to Council of Ministers. Actually, the Prime Minister who was here is a member of the Council of Ministers. That is an organ that reports to the heads of state. What they cannot earn, also they send it to the heads of state. That is a summit. So even the standards also has got a sectoral council on standard, a sectoral committee on standards, then has a sectoral council, then to council, and then if it needs heads of state, they forward the issue to the heads of state.
Through that structure, you also mentioned that these standards or the policies are closely developed with the governments of the 8 EAC partner states, and some of the policies YAPRI has supported so far in developing them and the standards. But as YAPRI, there's not much we can do also without our partners. One of our key partners is the Worldwide Fund for Nature, which has a couple of programs on sustainable energy in Africa. Now let me come to you, Thomas Opande. Which of these programs cover the East African community, and which are some of the key areas that require policy harmonization for renewable energy in the EAC? Thank you. Let me pass to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yunus, and thank you, participants. At WWF, we have a program which is implemented from Uganda, but we have other programs in different country offices. But the one which I think is relevant for this case is what we call the Africa Energy Transition Project, where we are working with Tanzania policy, Uganda policy, Kenya policy, and Madagascar policy. Madagascar is not in EAC, so I will not talk much about Madagascar, but for example, for Kenya, actually the background to the program is that our policies are not, what's the right word? They're weak. I think almost in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, if I'm not wrong, excuse me, I've not done my studies right, it's probably only the Kenyan policy which can sail through, not that I'm a Kenyan. So excuse me for that. I say that because the Kenyan energy policy has 7 or 8 bodies. There was somebody here from Kenya. Yeah, 7 or 8 bodies. And how do they work? I think most of you are Ugandans, right? So you have Umeme here in Uganda, which supplies power, transports power, and gives you Iyaka, right? Yes, in Kenya, all those are different. We have KenGen, which generates. We have Ketraco, which transports. We have Kenya Power, which provides Iyaka. We have the Rural RERA, which does the rural electrification. We have the GDC, which only deals with geothermal. And then we have the nuclear, which only works with the nuclear energy. So how is that relevant? Each one of them have to be profitable. So if you generate, your core activity is to generate. The other one who transports and deals with the losses. And the other one deals with only Iyaka to make sure you have power in your house, etc. So then that means that you will not get money which you pay for Iyaka to go to pay for water in Kampala, something like that. So then that really means each one of them have to be managed professionally and have to be profitable. And then WWF now, we are working with 3 counties in Kenya so that we do the county energy plans, which is very important because we have realized that when you have a national energy plan, then, for example, only Nairobi is favored. Everything will think about Nairobi, but you want everybody in the country to be represented, to have their own energy plan. Where do they get their energy? How do they want energy to serve what? How is the consumption? So we are trying to work on those models and see if that is something that can be replicated in other countries. So that is the key one. And then at the EAC level, I think my brother Elsam here said that there is no energy policy. And I don't know if you know what that means to us, if the EAC does not have. I give you an example. I think also, I remember my brother Elsam in our last discussion in Arusha, we were saying DRC and Somalia have come into EAC, but all of us don't know the language implications. And you saw, I think, one of the speakers in the morning greeted that in French and nobody replied. So that means at the implementation level, we will be having many people speaking different languages, but they cannot speak, but they are all in the EAC. So we need to harmonize for us to get something moving forward. That is one big implication. The second implication, which I think, I am not sure, again, excuse me if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody has talked about it in this conference since I came, but I will talk about it now. Excuse me if maybe somebody had done about it. We are all talking about mini grids which are not, how do you call it, are not bringing in any returns, right? That has been a very big issue, but nobody has ever talked about us manufacturing or us assembling our mini grids locally. I don't know if I'm wrong, but look, try to picture yourself that way. And one of the big reasons why we are thinking of, I've personally been trying to think what is the solution around this. And the key solution around this, I think Yunus touched very briefly and Elsam also touched very briefly, is the numbers. Africa is a very interesting continent. We have 54 countries, very small, don't talk to each other, and are net importers and export nothing, or export very little. So when you go to an investor, for example, let me say Volvo, Mercedes, or somebody manufacturing renewable energy, and you say, we want you to come and set base in Uganda. The final statistics they will do is how many people are in Uganda, 50 million. How many of them are middle class and can afford $1,000, 1 million? Then they will run away and go to India or China or somewhere. But when we present them with the facts of EAC, where, for example, we are, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were 310 before DRC, which is 105 million, and then Somalia, which is 20. So now we are almost approaching 450 million. And then with a functional EAC policy, Uganda can manufacture the solar panels, Kenya can manufacture the storage systems, Rwanda can manufacture the inverters, and they can all move freely within the 8 countries to serve the 450 million people. In an area where our total electricity coverage is below 50%. And with 450 million, remember we will be talking a language bigger than the United States of America, which is 300 million, and which is half or slightly below half of China. Then economically we will be able to speak as the East African community. So what we are doing now as WWF in relation to what you said is that we are supporting IAGRI to develop a renewable energy policy, because as my brother Elsam has said, there is no energy policy in the region. So that we believe that when we have a renewable energy policy, particularly this policy will be able to define renewable energy products. And how is it going to help if it is done and finished? Again, this goes to mini grid and household systems. Most of us, I think you find that the tariff for mini grids is unaffordable the way we call it, and people cannot make or break even with that. So some of the cost works around the importation and bureaucracy as they come from Mombasa or Dar es Salaam. I give you another example. I think one of the ladies asked Honorable a question about the taxes and bureaucracy and bringing things from Kenya. And I think the answer lies in the HS codes. So even if she will go anywhere, that is what the bureaucrats will tell her. I will define for you what an HS code is. When you go to URA to buy anything, or KRA or TRA, everything has a code. And it is the code which they put, and then they tell you, you go there and pay this under this code. And that HS code, according to the EAC policy, the solar panels are non-taxable. So you are not supposed to pay any tax on a solar panel. But the catch is this: the solar panel does not come on its own. If you bring a water heater, it's put on an aluminium frame. And there is the water tank which is attached to it. So then the HS code for that particular product will push you to the water heater. Then you have to pay tax. The same with the portable lanterns. It comes with a small solar panel and then you have the light there. So again, it will push you to that lantern. And again, they ask you to pay tax. So that is the catch. So then we should have, I think maybe I'll answer my question now. My next question, Yunus, was then, what are the challenges? So I've now already gone into the challenges. So the challenge is already the HS code, that is one, and the classification. So the HS code should be able to define particularly under those criteria. So when you go and then you have your solar water heater, for example, under HS code this, then it is not taxable. Then that will be able to help. But the process is that if that one is not there, there is bureaucracy, because the way she will interpret it is not the same way I will interpret it. So that means today, if she will ask you to pay X amount, I will ask you to pay Y amount tomorrow. And that means you cannot plan for next month, because you don't know how much they're going to charge you at URA. So that is one area, that is one challenge we are facing. And then now that comes to classification and having all the equipment classified. But that one, another challenge again brings in the challenge of quality. The way Uganda will define their quality is not the same DRC will define quality. So there is need to harmonize as EAC, what do we define as quality for what? And what passes, so that if it passes the EAC region in Tanzania, it is defined by the same quality all the way up to DRC, Burundi, and Rwanda. And that brings into play the issue of certification. So DRC should be able to accept the certification from Dar es Salaam or Mombasa, and vice versa. And that is only for quality products, and also we should have certification for skills. Some of us in the morning session were talking about people from Uganda going to explore opportunities in the region, which is a beautiful idea. But then when you reach Kenya, when you reach Dar es Salaam, and you present your certificate from Chambogo University, how will they classify you? Or when I come to Makerere, where my sister is, and I bring my certificate from Nairobi or from Kisumu, how will it be classified? So then there should be a way where we have the technicians for solar energy to be able to freely roam within the EAC region, and then there are common exams, common courses, common classification, so that a Ugandan can easily leave Kampala and go and repair a solar panel in Mombasa and come back without so many questions. Yeah, I think I leave it at that. Sorry for taking too long.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a good and heavy submission. Let's give him a round of applause. But in the middle there, he also mentioned Chambogo University. Let's give them a round of applause. I know I have very many students from Makerere University here. They always have this rock pulling with Chambogo guys. Yeah. So, thank you for those submissions on the challenges, on some of the very important issues which you feel the policy issues normally leave out. I'm happy to announce that with the support from WWF, IAGRI has already hired a consultant, and they are going to develop a regional renewable energy policy for the EAC, and it will also capture aspects which restrict transboundary trade when it comes to renewable energy and energy efficiency. Yeah, thank you, Thomas, for those submissions. Now let me come to my friend here, Dr. Miria. Yeah, Dr. Miria is from the Makerere University Business School. It's common, business schools and all that. You start hearing about them when we are talking about energy. Those days, when we are talking about energy, we are only thinking engineering. But now, we know nothing is moving without business. So, Doctor, please tell us about some of the programs which target renewable energy and energy efficiency in Makerere University Business School, and also tell us some of the roles the academia can actually play in harmonizing regional policies when it comes to renewable energy and energy efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you, Yunus. I am honored to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you for that kind introduction. I'm from the Faculty of Energy, Economics and Management Science, the Department of Applied Economics. And indeed, I have to agree with you. Before 2016, you could not hear much of energy issues at MOBS. But since 2016, when MOBS secured NORAD capacity building grant, since then there has been a collaboration with the Norwegian University of Life Sciences as a partner university in Norway. And that collaboration has led to the development of programs like PhD and Master in Energy Economics and Governance. And for these programs, the research themes cut across energy, issues of economic governance, climate change, sustainability, and natural resource management. So, and we have also seen that over the years, with the staff and the students, their research has mainly been inclined towards renewable energy transition and sustainability, because now this is a major concern for every country, for everyone. And in 2021, MOBS again secured another grant, and this has strengthened its capacity in these issues. So what we have seen is that for all this transformation, there has been the creation of the Faculty of Energy Economics, the one I said, that's where I come from, and then the Department of Energy Science and Technology. I just want to tell you that this department has spearheaded a training, it conducts workshops, and it has fostered research in these areas. It also engages with the community when it comes to issues of renewable energy, and then it connects with the local stakeholders. We also have boot camps that are annual. We train students and other participants in issues related with energy. Then in 2023, the MOBS Climate Finance and Sustainability Center was opened, and this actually shows the capacity that MOBS has been building over the years in these areas, and we hope to move forward. And all I can say is that when you look at the volume of publications, they are all coming up in these areas. And you talked about the role of academia. I would just first define academia in simple terms. We are basically looking at the education community and the activities that take place in institutions of higher learning. But we know that with the research that goes on, the activities they do, for example, consultancy, and the knowledge they have, we can all agree that the academia, their participation in issues of policy and development agendas becomes indispensable. And I will be explaining why. And particularly regarding renewable energy policies, I will first look at, we need to understand the renewable energy transition itself, because we are coming up with these policies to promote the transition. But the renewable energy transition, we all know that this is a long-term thing. It evolves or unfolds over a longer period of time. And another aspect is that there are so many factors that are involved, ranging from sustainability, where we look at the dimensions of social, economic, and then environmental, to factors of technology that the previous speakers have been mentioning. We also do not have to forget the diverse stakeholders, all of us here, that have interest in the transition itself, and those that could be affected in one way or another. So then, what did this mean? When I talk about the different factors, the different stakeholders, it means that when it comes to policy formulation, we need to take a holistic approach. A holistic approach that considers the interconnectedness of the factors, how they interact, we need to assess how they interact, and any trade-off that may ensue. And then we also need to look at how the transition may impact individuals, communities, and other stakeholders. So now, with this at the back of our mind, I must say that the academia becomes indispensable. Why? We need research to understand all these things. We need informed insights to advise the policymakers or to help in the development of policies. If you can all maybe agree with me, it has become a common practice to do the strategic, environmental, and socio-economic assessment actually before such interventions are even implemented. Because we need to project what is going to happen if we are looking at emission savings. How much are we going to save? And then if we are looking at those, let's say, resources we are going to phase out, how are they going to impact the communities? So we need to know all these things. After all, we are acting in the principle of leaving no one behind. How will you tell that you're not leaving people behind if you do not know how this is going to impact them? Please allow me to give this example. I'm giving this in good faith. If you think of the charcoal ban in northern Uganda, so this ban, this directive came. We are not saying that it wasn't called for. Yes, it could be that it was called for. But now this is a directive that was given without consideration of who is going to be affected or the entire value chain. The users of energy, and then the business people. I can give an example of myself as an energy user. We all know that most of us, perhaps even in the middle income earners, we still rely on this charcoal, you know? And then, so what do we see? Charcoal and any other biomass in our homes, these are like given goods. A given good is where, when the price increases, instead of reducing, you instead buy more. Why is that? Because this is an essential good in a way that it takes a lot of your income. And that's what happens with the charcoal in most households. So what has happened is that the price of charcoal has gone up. Now people are spending more on this, so leaving them with limited opportunity to switch to other clean alternatives. Maybe, can I just go ahead mention briefly, because I talked about the role, but how does academia come in?
In 1 minute.
In 1 minute.
Yeah.
So basically, it comes in for you to be able to do that. The academia, we have to collect data, not only collecting it, but we share it. There is a problem, everyone has been mentioning that. We need to share data, act with policies that are informed, and then we need research and analysis. We are mostly relying on documents that are written by international organizations, the International Energy Association, as if we cannot do our things. And then someone also said that we are reviewing, their policies we are reviewing, but you will see that most of these maybe have not even implemented, but we are reviewing, and then we get another one, and then we continue like that. So, and then we can also engage in developing the products. We can also do that for universities that are science-oriented. We can do policy analysis and evaluation. Actually, this takes us to, we look at the policies we have before we review, like he mentioned, the first speaker, before we review, where did we come from? Where are we now? And if we review, what are we going to focus on? So instead of just reviewing, we need to make informed decisions. And the other thing, it can be training and capacity building, like vocational training institutions. We can encourage students in terms of developing those products that are a solution to our problems. But we can also encourage in universities the product-oriented research. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. A round of applause. Academia, a very huge area which is normally overlooked when we are talking about these topics. Thank you for your submissions on the role of academia and how academia could be brought on board in this discussion, and also some of the very interesting programs at Makerere University Business School. Now let me come to Mr. Hatimana from Food and Agriculture Organization. Yeah, so we see a lot of work which has been done by Food and Agriculture Organization in the area of clean cooking, which is one of the very important thematic areas when you're talking about energy transition, because that's where a lot of the energy in the EAC goes. So my question is, what are some of the key policy steps that can be taken at regional level to accelerate the efforts of the EAC partner states towards universal access to clean cooking? And what is the role of FAO in this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yunus. And we are very grateful for the invitation. And I think it's Food and Agriculture Organization is really very much pleased to contribute to this kind of debate. And when I was listening to colleagues, I was very happy also some of the things that have been mentioned are like part of some of the areas of interest, including the last one mentioned by my sister here. We've been working on this sensitive project on charcoal. We've been even initiated some activities related to let's say, certification to show that there is a way of producing charcoal in a certain sustainable way. And we are even organizing a sort of mission to exposure visit to Namibia to showcase that there is a way of producing charcoal which is not so damaging, but it has some requirements just to start. Let me also, before I respond precisely to your question, I know that time is tight, starting by two good news, because we are not here to talk of problems only. There are things happening in a certain way. The first one is, I was trying to look roughly what's happening in East Africa in terms of investment in renewable energy, and I came across an assessment which was done by OECD, this Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, which I know because I've been part of it for some time, which indicates that East Africa is more integrated into intra-African investment flow than compared to other regions. So there are some areas where we are doing fairly well, and I think the assessment was trying to capture some of the companies registered, in particular in Kenya, they were including Mauritius, and the conclusion was that in terms of investment flow, East Africa is standing quite well compared to other countries. The second, other regions. The second good news we need to push up and scale up. I was impressed by when you visit the exhibition, there's a lot of enterprises, innovative enterprises coming up strongly. And this is, I think, a bubbling trend which should be recognized, and now that's where the policy can help in pushing such kind of trends. And I think those are some of the aspects that we need to recognize in support to productive transformation in renewable energy. I was also thinking, to go slightly back, we are talking of regional aspects. Why are you looking at things from a regional perspective, actually, to take back to the... I think sometimes we have this trap of looking at policies and programs from a country perspective. And this is a bit of a trap because things are happening on a wider range. And our mindset is not so much tuned into looking at things at sort of regional level. Let me give you one example. The European Union that you know, it was initially created by a European community of coal and steel. It's not so much renewable, but I think it's just the model itself. It's from there that, because of the success of what was happening in European countries, that's how now it started. It came up to European Economic Community and then European Union that we know. So some products, even from our side, can be like federating in terms of pushing for regional integration, but also it helps to reducing costs in each country when we look at it from a regional perspective. And I think it's a mindset that we might be deliberate about when we are trying to push for renewable energy. Responding more specifically to the question from our friends and colleagues, Yunus, I can say 4 steps if I have to respond to it, but very briefly. Of course, the first one is to sort of identify regional issues, but in subsidiarity with national issues. And I think there are some aspects which have been highlighted previously, which are already somehow well known, like an unfavorable regulatory and institutional environment. If we talk, for example, for restrictions in terms of private and market-based energy production, those are some of the gaps that might need to be looked at. Limited bankable projects and weak domestic financing systems, just to give some few examples. The second one, this one does not need maybe to be too much on it. The second one is more on research and data analysis for policy makers. Our colleague from East Africa Community Secretariat was saying that countries are at different levels. That's a fact. But I think in terms to be able maybe to structure and organize things, one of the assessments was saying, all those countries, they can be grouped into 2 clusters, to say so. The cluster 1 is, which could be comprised of, let's say, countries like Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, and Uganda rather. They could look at expanding the investment capacity because it has started also to take place somehow. So that could be one of the grouping in terms of clustering some of East African countries. And then now the approach would be to push for private investment which can be scaled up in that particular cluster. The cluster number 2 could be now combining some countries like my country, Burundi, South Sudan, and Somalia, where private investment has not picked up so strongly, and where the area of focus would be more on grant-based investment, but also on a regulatory framework. So those are kind of examples that can help now to structure how a regional policy can tackle, and rationalize some of those aspects. The third step It's more now on policy formulation, which requires, as you know, these consultations and the adoption, which takes time anyway. And we have many examples. I've been working a lot with this, the ECOWAS, the East African community, sort of equivalent of East African community. And I know that it takes some good time. We'll be supporting a number of policies, including the renewable energy policy. It can take some little time, but this one, I think processes are fairly known. Implementation, which is the fourth step, and then I will try to be shorter. Here, my message would be, because of it's possible, I think the key pointer would be to go into private sector-led implementation strategy. It does not come, my sister here was also highlighting a number of aspects which are really quite useful, and I think in terms of setting up regional policy, there's this tendency of course there's always a balance between public and private investment, but I think on some particular aspects there could be like a formative way of saying, okay, let's go, let's say a more oriented private sector led approach. I'm tempted also to suggest, and I think my colleague from WWF has hinted on it, and my colleague from East African Community Secretariat have hinted on it. There's this approach of what is usually called the country lead approach. A region, a country like Uganda does not need to be exactly the same in terms of research and pilot as Uganda. There is a possibility that the Secretariat of East African Community say, look, you will be leading on this particular aspect. And then once we see some results from this pilot, then they can be scaled in other countries. It has been experienced in many other places, and I think it's an approach which might be looked at and to make it, let's say, to volunteer to do it explicitly. Otherwise, you will find that countries are doing similar things, and yet there could be a possibility of grouping, say, okay, one country may lead on these particular aspects. And last point, Chair and Moderator, this idea of harmonization, I think it's quite key. We tend to forget about it. And when it comes to, just to give one example, in the coming years, we'll be working on harmonizing the timber standards, because when you are selling, let's say, timber from Uganda to Kenya, grade A does not mean exactly the same from those two countries, and it makes the regional market not flowing so well. So having some common understanding on quality that my colleague was highlighting is really key. It takes some resources, but it pays in the long term, because now it helps to make, let's say, the market flow, having the same interpretation of the quality of products. And also, in the end, those are like the aspects which will end up by even reducing some cost and making some of the products of a certain quality and somehow affordable. I think, Moderator, it's good when there are some of the things that we can take an opportunity to respond via some questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation. Yeah, that round of applause was for Mr. Hatimana, but let's give another round of applause for all of them for this. Yeah. Thank you very much. You know we started late, right? Yeah, and because of that, we have extended our program into other programs. Yeah, I'm going to give opportunity for two questions. One question from this side and the other question from the other side. And if the question from here comes from a lady, we can only pick a lady from here when there's no gentleman. Yeah, yes please. Be straight to the point and also make reference to the panelists to whom you are referring, and then Yeah. One question at a time.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Akela Ruth Balila, and I'm from the Chemistry Technology Students Association at Chambogo University. I'm addressing my question to the doctor from WOPS. Sorry, I've forgotten the name. Dr. Miriam. I find it hard to believe that academia has a role to play and that it is fully invested in the policy-making process. Why do I say so? There's still a knowledge gap. And I think that if our end goal is smooth and complete transition to a sustainable and a better renewable energy economy, then the scholars are to be actively involved in the research and the product development, just like you said. So now reaching out to these scholars could be hard, but we have associations in these institutions. For example, the Chemistry Technologies Association of Chambogo University. Lately we are involved in research, and what is limiting us are the resources and the avenues through which we can access these resources. Okay. My question is, how can we align ourselves, and is there any avenue for us to get in touch with you, or to help us also join the transition, to help us join the innovation, because we really love to be part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Doctor, you're going to respond to that question. In 1 minute, for the interest of time, actually we will not pick the second question because I've just been informed that the minister is already in Rwenzori Convention, the main auditorium, to close the session, and it will be good or a honorable thing to do if we can join them there in the convention after Dr. Miria has responded. Dr. Miria, in 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth, for this question. But I will insist that we have a role to play. The issue is that we are not coordinating with the private sector. For us to play a role, we need to learn from them. What are they innovating? And they also need to learn. They need to learn from us. What have we found from our research? So it's a matter of collaboration. And you said something of how to help you to come to join the transition process. I don't know whether you meant that at MOVES or generally. But the thing is, all I can say is coordination, and then you can also work across departments. I have seen this at MOBS. We have people bringing accounting skills, marketing skills. So it's not only about the science, it's not only about the innovators. All the skills can be used, and then we can achieve the transition. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Miriam. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Thank you very much, Elsam. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Dr. Miriam. And thank you, Mr. Atimana, for your very insightful deliberations. And thanks to the audience for sitting after lunch. Is not easy. But the sitting is over. I can say that this session has come to an end. Let's join the minister and the other dignitaries in the Rwenzori Convention for the closing ceremony. And after the closing ceremony, please don't go home yet. There will be a cocktail. The cocktail on Thursday was smaller because they were reserving the energy for today. Please don't miss that. I thank you all. I also thank my team from IACRI for putting together the session. All of them can stand up and we give them a round of applause as we close the session. Thank you very much. That is Engineer Dennis. That is Mariam, our admin, and also gender focal person. That is Robina. She supports us on everything finance and admin. That is Collins, a renewable energy expert. And we also have Talib, energy efficiency expert. Thank you all for the sessions. Thank you. Let's move to Rwenzori Convention for the closing session. Thank you.